The crash echoed like thunder across the neighborhood. One of the fake HOA cops went flying through the living room window of my grandma's house, glass exploding in all directions as he landed hard in her rose bushes. His limp body lay crumpled like a broken puppet. The other guy was screaming on the floor, holding his jaw, blood pouring from his mouth. His face was twisted in pain, mumbling words that no one could understand. My cousin Malik stood over him, fists clenched, chest heaving like a war drum. His eyes were wild, like he had snapped into some version of himself I had never seen before. And Grandma? She was still clutching the edge of her kitchen chair, eyes wide, lips trembling. Her tea had spilled all over the floor. Her favorite mug, the one I gave her for her birthday, lay in pieces beside her walker. Outside, neighbors began peeking through blinds. Some stepped out onto porches. A child screamed from across the street. It all happened in under 5 minutes. 1 second it was quiet, then all hell broke loose. But how did we get here? What made my cousin, the calmest, most gentle guy in our family, go full beast mode and literally throw a man through a window? Let me tell you everything. I had just come back from college for the summer. My name's Jaden. I'm 22. I've always been close to my grandma. We call her Mama Lou. She raised me and Malik like we were her own kids. Our parents weren't really around growing up, so Mama Lou's house was our fortress. Her house sits on the edge of a peaceful little neighborhood in Georgia. Small, quiet, mostly older folks. The kind of place where people wave when you walk by, and someone's always baking something that smells like heaven. But about 6 months ago, a few new people moved into the neighborhood. One of them, a large woman with bleach blonde hair and sunglasses even at night, started telling people she was the new HOA president. Problem is, our neighborhood doesn't even have an HOA. No one remembered voting for anything. No signs. No meetings. Nothing. Just one day this woman shows up knocking on doors, issuing violations like she's on a reality TV show. Late grass? $1.50 fine. Kids riding bikes on the sidewalk? Not allowed. Grandma's wind chimes? Too noisy. We laughed at first, thought it was a joke. But the joke didn't stop. She printed fake letterheads. Claimed she had legal authority. Even hired 2 goons who wore cheap security uniforms and called themselves HOA enforcement officers. The woman? We started calling her Karen. I know it's cliché, but trust me, she was the Karen of all Karens. Mama Lou is 82. She walks with a cane. Her health isn't what it used to be. But she's strong where it counts, in heart and spirit. Karen hated her. What? Because Mama Lou kept chickens in her backyard. 6 hens and 1 stubborn old rooster named Bootsy. They weren't noisy. They were pets. But Karen claimed they were unsanitary and lowered property value. She issued Mama Lou a cease and desist letter, like this was some kind of business deal. Mama Lou crumpled it up and said, "Tell that woman to mind her business before I send Bootsy to peck her ankles." We laughed. But Karen didn't. She doubled down. Started leaving notes on Mama Lou's porch. Then she threatened to escalate enforcement if the chickens weren't removed. That's when the fake HOA cops started showing up. 2 guys. Mid-40s. Muscular. Wore mirrored sunglasses and utility belts with flashlights, pepper spray, and fake badges that looked like they were printed at a gas station. They would bang on Mama Lou's door at 7 a.m., demanding entry to inspect the house. She never opened. She called the real police once, but by the time the cops arrived, the fake enforcers were gone. It was psychological warfare. One afternoon, Malik called me while I was out buying groceries. "Bro," he said, voice tight. "I just got to Grandma's. She's shaken up. Those clowns came again." I dropped everything. When I got home, Mama Lou was sitting at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a cup of tea. Her eyes were glossy. She didn't say much. But Malik was fuming. "They said next time they'll enter by force," he said. "What?" "Yeah. Said they'll come back with papers. Said they have a right to inspect. Bro, they're pushing her. And if they come back, I swear." He didn't finish that sentence. It was a Thursday morning. I had stepped out to run an errand. Malik was home with Mama Lou. That's when it happened. The 2 fake HOA cops showed up again. This time they didn't knock. They kicked the door in. Mama Lou screamed. They claimed it was a legal inspection. They had a clipboard and a phony warrant with HOA letterhead. Malik was upstairs. He heard the crash. He ran down. Saw them in the living room, one grabbing Mama Lou's arm. The other is taking photos of her kitchen. That's when something inside him snapped. Malik shouted, "Get your hands off my grandma." What happened next was so fast, One man was airborne before the other could blink. But that's where I'll stop for now. You won't believe what Malik said after the glass shattered, or what the real police did when they arrived and found two fake enforcers on the ground. Malik's voice boomed so loud it shook the air. "Get your hands off my grandma." The man holding Mama Lou turned just in time to see Malik leap the last 4 stairs like a lion. It was like time froze, just for a second, as Malik's arm came swinging like a hammer. Crack. The first fake officer's face exploded in pain. His body twisted awkwardly and launched backwards, smashing straight through the living room window with a loud, shattering crash. Glass scattered across the porch and into the flower beds. Before the second guy could even pull out the pepper spray from his fake utility belt, Malik was on him too. Boom. A fist to the stomach. Bam. A right hook to the jaw, a sickening sound like a watermelon dropped on the sidewalk. The man dropped to the floor, groaning, blood dripping from his mouth, moaning something about not part of the deal. Mama Lou was still in shock, her hands covering her mouth. "Jaden," Malik shouted as I ran in from the back door, "call the real cops. Now." 15 minutes later, the scene looked like something out of a movie. 2 patrol cars, lights flashing. 1 ambulance, though the guy who went through the window didn't seem seriously hurt, just bruised and dazed. A detective, tall and calm, asked for statements. The neighbors had all come out. Some had phones up, recording. Others whispered in huddles. One elderly man from across the street walked over and said, "'Bout time someone gave those fellas what they deserved." I handed the detective the crumpled HOA letters, the fake inspection notice, the ridiculous badges they left behind. He whistled, shook his head and said, "You boys just helped us out more than you know." Turns out, these weren't just random guys in costumes. These 2 had been part of a bigger scam Karen was running. She'd convinced about 12 homeowners in the neighborhood that there was a new HOA formed, and she was collecting fees, over $200 per month per house. She even had a fake website and hotline with an automated voice. With that money, she paid the 2 guys, both former rent-a-cops with shady records, to act as her enforcement arm. The detective said they had already been building a case but needed solid evidence of entry and intimidation. And Malik? He gave it to them, with a fist in a window. That night, after the adrenaline settled and the cops left, Mama Lou finally spoke up. "I told y'all," she said, sipping from a new mug I gave her to replace the broken one. "Ain't nobody coming into my house waving papers and fake badges. I may walk slowly, but I know it's wrong when I see it." Then she looked at Malik and said, "You got that fire in you, just like your granddaddy. He once threw a man through a fence for touching my peaches." We all laughed. Felt good. Like a breath after being underwater. But things weren't over. 2 days later, a large envelope arrived at Mama Lou's house. It was a legal-looking document. Karen was suing us for assault and destruction of property. She had hired a lawyer. She claimed Malik attacked her employees without provocation, caused mental distress and damaged official HOA property. There was even a picture attached. The broken badge, a cracked phone, and a photo of the guy who went through the window laying in the bushes with a dramatic neck brace. We couldn't believe it. "She's actually trying to sue us," I whispered. Mama Lou didn't flinch. "She wanna play legal?" "Good," she said. "Because I've been keeping records." Mama Lou disappeared into her room and came back with a thick manila folder. Inside were copies of every letter Karen ever left. Photos of the fake HOA goons. Voice recordings Malik had made during one of their earlier visits. And the best part? A video. One of our cousins, Danny, had caught a full video of the inspection day from across the street. It showed the 2 men kicking in the front door and barging into the house. No hesitation. They weren't attacked. They forced their way in. We had evidence and we were ready. Weeks passed. Court day arrived. Karen came in all smug. Pink suit, giant sunglasses, fake tears ready. Her lawyer made a big scene, calling Malik a violent young man with anger issues. Then our lawyer stood up. He pressed play on the video. The courtroom went silent as the footage showed exactly what happened. Then came the twist. In that video, behind the 2 fake HOA cops, was Karen herself. She had been hiding just off to the side during the invasion. Watching. Whispering orders. She was there. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Is that the plaintiff, on the scene of the crime?" Karen's face went pale. And that is where we'll pause. What happens when the judge finds out the HOA is fake, and Karen was part of the break-in? Karen wasn't alone. She brought help. Armed. Dressed in black. With a plan. The motion sensor went off. 2:37 a.m. The phone buzzed. Malik's eyes flew open. He grabbed it and sat upright. The security app flashed, movement detected, front yard. Within seconds I was awake too. The living room lights were off, but Malik had already pulled the curtain slightly. I crept up beside him, peeking through the blinds. That's when we saw her. Karen. Dressed in black from head to toe, crouched low near the side of the house. But she wasn't alone. 2 men were with her. One held what looked like a crowbar. The other had a flashlight taped to a camera. They weren't just prowling, they were preparing. They thought we were asleep. They thought they'd sneak in and scare Grandma again. But not this time. Malik turned to me. Time for the trap. We had set it up perfectly. Motion lights, silent alarms, hidden cameras that recorded to the cloud, and a direct line to the sheriff's department just in case. But Malik didn't wait for the cops. He grabbed his baseball bat and walked out the back door quietly like a ghost. I followed, heart thumping, phone in hand, ready to call the police. Karen and her goons didn't even hear us coming. They were at the front window again, where Malik had thrown the fake HOA cop weeks ago. Karen whispered to one of the men, "She sleeps on the left. Smash it quick and go in. No more playing." That was it. Malik stepped out from the shadows. "Looking for a rematch, Karen?" She jumped and screamed. The 2 men turned, and then everything went crazy. I wiped it off and said, "That's assault too." The police arrived within 3 minutes. This time? No questions. No debates. Karen was arrested on the spot, still shrieking that she was protecting the community. The officer laughed. "Yeah, right. In all black with a crowbar at 2:30 in the morning? Save it for court." At the station something else came out. One of the men with Karen was an ex-con. He had a record for home invasions and had been caught impersonating an officer years ago. The other? A local handyman who claimed Karen promised him $500 in a job if he helped inspect the house. When asked what Karen told them the plan was, the ex-con said something chilling. She said she just wanted to scare the old woman. Maybe smash some stuff. Teach her a lesson. That's all I knew. The police filed additional charges against Karen. Criminal trespass. Attempted burglary. Conspiracy to intimidate a senior soliciting criminal activity. And violation of probation because guess what? Karen was already on parole for a fraud charge from another town. The news caught fire again. Karen returns to scene, midnight invasion caught on camera. Ex-fraudster behind fake HOA faces 12 felony counts. Mama Lou's story became the talk of Georgia. She was invited to speak at town halls. A podcast called her, "The Granny Who Broke the HOA Mafia." Her chickens got featured on local TV. But behind the scenes we weren't celebrating. Because now it wasn't just about Karen. It wasn't even about Harlan. This was a criminal network. One that thrived in confusion, fake power, and fear. And we just became their biggest OB1 guy lunged at Malik. Bad mistake. Malik dodged and swung the bat into his ribs. The man collapsed instantly, groaning and coughing. The second guy ran. Karen? She tried to scream, "Help!" but choked halfway through and slipped trying to turn. I tackled her before she could get away. She thrashed like a fish out of water. "You're trespassing on private property," I growled. She spat at me. Stakel. A week after the blackout raid, Mama Lou got an invitation from the mayor to speak at a local safety board meeting. We all went with her. She gave a fiery speech about senior protection, scam awareness, and neighborhood unity. The crowd clapped like thunder. Afterward, while we stood outside near the city hall steps, a black car drove slowly past us. The rear window rolled down just a bit. A hand poked out, dropped something onto the curb. Then the car vanished. I walked over and picked it up. It was a burner phone. Already powered on. A single message on the screen, "Back off or the next raid won't be a warning." Malik looked at me. "We're in a war now," was a promise. The message on the screen, "Back off or the next raid won't be a warning," was short but it hit hard. We knew it meant one thing, Harlan Voss wasn't done. And this time it wasn't just about Mama Lou's house. It was about silencing anyone who had exposed his fake HOA empire. Malik clenched the phone so tight his knuckles turned white. "We're not backing off," he said. "We're burning his whole empire down." We spent the next 72 hours doing nothing but research, calls, and prep. Danny went deep into online databases and financial trails. I reached out to reporters, and Malik? He reached out to an old friend who worked in the State Bureau of Investigation. What we uncovered was shocking. Harlan Voss had over 17 shell companies posing as neighborhood associations. He'd conned hundreds of families into paying monthly dues. He used threats, fake inspectors, and corrupt city contacts to make his fraud look official. And worst of all, Some towns even had real HOAs, he simply hijacked them from within. Danny pulled one final piece of gold. A hidden camera recording from a former enforcer who turned informant. In the video, Harlan laughed as he said, "Fear is the best HOA policy. They don't pay to follow rules, they pay to avoid me." Armed with everything, we walked into the governor's office and dropped a flash drive on the table. Within 48 hours, state authorities launched Operation Concrete Law, a multi-county sting to bust fake HOAs, seize illegal funds and bring Harlan, Indiana. But guess who disappeared? Harlan. Gone. Vanished just like Karen. But he made one mistake. He tried one last raid, on Mama Lou's house. It was a Sunday night. Quiet. Still. Too still. We were all on edge. Then 1:24 a.m. The cameras picked up 3 vans. Blacked out. No plates. No lights. Moving slow. They rolled to a stop in front of the house. Doors opened. Men in tactical gear stepped out. Not the police. Impersonators. One had a battering ram. Another carried zip ties. One wore a fake U.S. Marshal patch. They weren't here to scare us. They were here to erase us. Before they could breach the front door, floodlights burst on. Malik stepped outside. Alone. No fear in his face. Just the bat, duct-taped and cracked from all the fights. He shouted, "You came to the wrong house. We've been waiting." Just then, a dozen cars lit up the block. Not just local police. State Bureau. Homeland Security. News crews. It had been a trap all along. Malik's SBI friend coordinated it. Our home was wired, monitored, and shielded like a fortress. The fake officers panicked. Some ran. Some dropped their gear. One even dropped to his knees yelling, "I was just following orders." And then they caught him. Harlan Voss. Disguised as one of his own goons. Wearing body armor and fake credentials. But it was him. Caught. Cornered. Done. Harlan's trial was the biggest thing to hit Georgia in years. Dozens of victims testified. Millions of dollars in fraud. Over 50 families scammed. Mama Lou was the final witness. She walked in with her cane, head held high, and said, "This man came into our lives like a shadow. But the thing about shadows? They disappear when you shine the truth on them." The courtroom erupted in applause. Harlan got 30 years behind bars. Karen was rearrested, and 5 other states opened investigations into connected HOA scams. A year later, life is peaceful. No more threats. No more fake fines. Just laughter, fried chicken on Sundays, and morning walks with justice. The governor named Mama Lou State Senior Advocate of the Year. The mayor renamed the community garden, Louisa Grant Garden of Justice. And Malik? He opened his own private security firm. First client? The neighborhoods Harlan once terrorized. But even after everything, something strange happened. On the first anniversary of the raid, we received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single sentence: "There are more of us." Harlan was only the beginning. And beneath it, a photo. A different family. Different states. Same fake HOA badge. We all stared at the photo in silence. It wasn't our house. It wasn't even anyone we knew. But the layout was familiar. The kind of neighborhood built from cookie-cutter homes with trimmed lawns and little white fences. And taped to the back of the photo? A fake HOA violation notice. Same design. Same bogus legal tone. Same phony seal at the top that read, "Unified Neighborhood Compliance Authority." We flipped the card over again. There are more of us. Harlan was only the beginning. For the first time in months, Mama Lou looked scared. Not because of what they said. But because it meant this thing, this HOA scam, wasn't some one-man scheme. It was a system. A network. And now they were recruiting again. We immediately turned over the letter to the SBI and the state attorney's office. 2 weeks later, agents raided a warehouse in South Carolina. They found printers, forged documents, uniforms, and a massive list of targets labeled Priority HOA Launch Zones. Some of those addresses were already being hit. The group had spread across 7 states, hiding behind legal-sounding names, tricking families, and controlling communities like little fiefdoms. Mama Lou looked at Malik and said, "We've been given something bigger than revenge." He nodded. "We've got work to do." And so we did. Mama Lou took the HOA watch to the next level, expanding to over 300 volunteers across the Southeast. They hosted public events, trained senior citizens, and partnered with real estate watchdogs to expose shady neighborhood organizations. Malik's security firm became one of the most trusted consulting companies for HOA fraud prevention in the state. And me? I started a podcast, Behind the Gate. Each episode featured real victims of HOA scams, whistleblowers, legal experts, and even ex-enforcers who turned over a new leaf. The story of what happened to Mama Lou became our first 10 episodes, and the most downloaded. We were no longer survivors. We were protectors. One night, as we sat on the porch under a quiet Georgia sky, I asked Mama Lou how she felt now that it was all out in the open. She sipped her sweet tea and smiled. Tired, but proud. And ready for the next fool who thinks he can slap on a badge and scare a grandma. Then she looked down at Justice, her loyal dog curled at her feet. We have a family. We got light. And now the world's watching. And that's when it really hit me. Karen kicked in the wrong door. Harlan underestimated the wrong house. And those who thought Mama Lou was an easy target? They started something that lit a fire across the nation. Because from that moment on, no one ever messed with our neighborhood again.